church which is fully involved in our shared apostolic mission to extend the kingdom of God globally through the recovery of New Testament church life, making disciples, training leaders, and planting churches by all means, including wholehearted financial commitment, welcoming translocal ministries, regularly attending corporate gatherings, promoting our publications, and communicating our news.
Now, as you said, there's Together At weekends around the UK and similar gatherings across the world in different contexts. For some in the UK especially, I suppose, who had exposure to Stoneleigh and saw a big thing, to go to a gathering which is supposed to be a broad corporate gathering but only gathers 2,000 or 3,000 compared to the approaching 30,000 that filled Stoneleigh. For some it seems like a kind of, it's not as good as Stoneleigh or something like that. What would you say to people who feel, are these corporate gatherings, are they as special? What would you say to people who might be tempted to think that way?
Yeah, I think that the smaller groups, which was not our intention, it wasn't our strategy, let's close the big one and go for small ones. I think it's come gradually, subsequently. It does create a context for multiplied platform, worship leaders, bands, speakers, and then again in seminars, more and more people are being given the opportunity to serve in new settings, and I think that's always worthwhile. And also, several of them are apostolic developments, so that guys are gathering people to their apostolic vision, which I think is hugely important when that can be the place. I think there's much more personal ownership. I think it also doesn't involve long journeys. And for some people who didn't like camping much, it's normally just a weekend or slightly extended weekend. And so it's not made such heavy requirements. And yet being, I believe, already very fruitful for people. Those who've been doing a little longer than others, I think, are beginning more and more to see the fruits of some of these weekends. I think they're very worthwhile. And for me, being involved in the USA, where I've been going to the Midwest celebration quite a lot, and I've been to all three of them actually, the West and the East and so on. I've seen how much has been accomplished in just a weekend, and I thought, wow, actually a weekend can push everybody forward more together. So it's really worth the effort. I would encourage people to get involved in that. And I've also now been to several in South Africa, gather 1,000 here and 1,000 there and so on. It's, I think, very worthwhile.
I suppose in a sense it's worth remembering that some of the first gatherings, before perhaps New Frontiers was even called New Frontiers, were gatherings of 1,000 or 2,000, Downs Bible Week and places like that. And it wasn't as if that was somehow, lacking in any weight or punch because it was a smaller group. It was very much a feel, we are in the purposes of God, this is a radical context to be in. So these smaller gatherings can still be very exciting times.
But as you say, the Downs Bible Week was hugely formative. And even prior to that, the Capel Bible Week, which was the mother of all Bible Weeks as far as I was concerned, actually the most number ever present, only 750 people ever camped there. And in the good summer, people were pouring in the evenings, and the top number for Ern Baxter preaching there in the last year, a really very warm summer, and all the sides of the big marquee were put up and people were sitting on the fields around. It was only 2,000, but I would say the impact was phenomenal across the nation. And so you're making a good point that, size is not always the only test. God can do amazing things. But if you come from a church of 100 or a church plant that hasn't even reached 100 yet, to gather with 1,000 or two is highly motivational and very much worth doing, I would say.